I came to Shomron with the idea of it becoming an inseparable part of the state of Israel. If I'm happy now, I would say we are around 500,000 Jews. I would have loved it to be 1,000,000 Jews. But I'm optimistic, so we will continue.
This is Daniela Weiss, a leader of the settlement movement and one of the first Jews to settle the West Bank in the 1970s. She calls it by its biblical name, Judea and Samaria. I'm Bradley Burston, Haaretz columnist and a longtime opponent of the settlements. I've come to meet Daniela and see the reality that she shaped. What were once Palestinian villages, rocky hills, and a few Jews whom most Israelis considered extremists is today a landscape filled with thriving and seemingly permanent urban settlements. Those settlements are pushing the two-state solution into past history. In the light of Daniela's apparent victory, I wanted to ask her what the future looks like for Israel and for the Palestinians living under occupation.
Let me be completely honest with you and open and say that I believe that the settlement movement has ruined the Israel that I wanted to see.
As much as I'm aggravated by your aggravation, I am more satisfied that my philosophy has had the upper hand and that indeed it blocked the option of a two-state solution.
What did people tell you when you told them, oh, I'm going out to this hilltop somewhere out there in the, to the east?
We lived in a beautiful home near Tel Aviv in Ramat Gan, and we had friends and everything, and so they were literally crying. Why go to the dark hills? So this is how it was called at that time. Why do you go there? You're going to live in a tent? So the practical reaction was emotional, because it's crazy to leave the comforts of life and to go into very, very primitive way of life. And I want to tell you something. I've never had, thank God, even 1 second of difficulty. It was all known before from the formula of Zionists and pioneers of previous decades. So I was walking, I had a clear route.
Kedumim has been Daniela's home since she helped found it in the mid-1970s. It was the first settlement established in Samaria after the 1967 war. In 1975, the first Jews came into this area, and the army was ordered to throw them out. But they came back, again and again. Finally, the government let them set up tents on an army base south of Nablus. Prime Minister Rabin believed they'd get sick and tired of the life there and leave on their own. They never did. When Daniela came here, hers was one of just 10 families. Today, the population of Kedumim is almost 5,000. The entire West Bank is home to around 500,000 settlers.
When we came here in the end of the year 1975, we were 10 Jewish families in the entire area of Samaria. Now, in the entire area of Samaria and Judea, there are 500,000, 500,000 Jews.
So let's go with the times and say, okay, it's going to stay in Israeli hands. So I say, give them the vote. Let them vote in Israeli elections.
The land of Israel is only for the Jewish nation as far as sovereignty is concerned. Arabs can live here, have their rights, human rights. They can have their education and culture, but not sovereignty.
So when I talk to North American Jews, especially young North American Jews, and I talk to them about how they feel about Israel, and also their alienation, their growing alienation from Israel, the one strongest element by far in their feelings of alienation from Israel, that element is the settlement movement and what the occupation represents in terms of the denial of Palestinian rights to millions of people.
People say to me, why don't you explain to the Jews in the United States what is exactly behind your thinking? I explain. But I'm laughing because the right word for it, you have to brainwash all the time. You have to say, to explain it, to live it, to cope with it. My husband says to me, why do you speak to your children all the time about Zionism, pioneers in Judea and Samaria, settling, and all my family are settlers here. because this is the only way to continue Zionism. So what we can see from here, we see the settlement, part of the settlement of Itzhar. Then we see Bracha, the settlement of Bracha. And what you see around here are part of the neighborhoods that are in Kdumim. This spread of Kdumim over 13 different hills. And another hill is the industrial area of Kdumim. That was my philosophy, my attitude towards spreading on a large area for future building of more Jewish neighborhoods and homes. מסעותינו בארץ ישראל.
From there we drove to the outpost of Chavat Gilad, which in Hebrew means Gilad's farm. Daniela was one of the first to establish the illegal outpost in 2002, shortly after the terrorist murder of Gilad Zar.
כשהייתי ראש מועצה, ואז נרצח גלעד, הבן של משה זר, אז משה ביקש ממני שאני אעזור להקים חווה על שמו. ואז עשיתי ברוכים הבאים לחוות גלעד. והנה כאן מכשירים כבר את השטח לבנייה חדשה.
Residents of the settlements have repeatedly attacked Israeli forces who came to expel them. The outpost is also infamous for violent incidents with Palestinians from the surrounding villages. Last year, after the rabbi of Chavat Gilad was killed, the government said it would act to legalize the outpost retroactively.
עד איפה בונים? עד ה... לא, אבל עד החצר של הפלסטיני האחרון? איך מחליטים?
לא, אדוני...
לא, אני שואל.
נקבע פגישה, אני אסביר לך, בדיוק שאל אותי את זה ישראלי במכינה, אמרתי לו, בונה מי שיש לו אומץ. אם יש לך אומץ ללכת שם על הגבעה, אתה יכול לבנות שם.
What happens? How do you react when you hear those words, two-state solution?
First of all, I know it will not happen. If we analyze it politically and practically, we see here hundreds of thousands of Jews. We see even in the eastern neighborhoods of Jerusalem, 300,000 Jews in the areas that were liberated in the Six-Day War. So where will there be a state? I want to have for the Jewish nation the promised land from the Bible. From the Euphrates
Yes.
to the Nile. And I'm sure it will be.
And what about southern Lebanon?
If it is part of it, all of it. Even parts of Syria, part of Iraq, part of Iran. It's huge.
You think you have any way of convincing people that that would be a good idea?
I convince many. Many people believe in it. I don't see anything anything extreme in my approach. It's the basic Jewish approach.
I wish I shared your feeling about the future. I am worried. I can tell you that I am worried that this is the place which will result in the end of Israel.
Oh no,
Yeah.
This is the future of Israel.
On my way back home, I couldn't help but wonder, was it the West Bank I was leaving, or was it the Israel of the future? A state of permanent occupation, eternal apartheid for the Palestinians, a privileged, rabbinically dominated suburbia for the Jews.